Okay, what am I here to do? Jeannie,
Yeah,
what am I here to do?
I've told you that before.
I
You're
didn't-
supposed to present.
We're supposed to be on break tomorrow. What am I doing here?
Is she kidding me?
Raul, what am I supposed to be here to do you know? No?
Just wing it.
This gum is this wad of gum is so big I can't even talk. But I wanted to start off first of all, welcome and thank you so very much for being here. I wanted to start off with some of the things that speakers do very poorly, and number one is chewing gum. And that is all the way up. I was blowing bubbles and thinking, oh, this is fun. But of course, as a teacher, as a speaker, that is the number one no-no. And the distraction, of course, is always when people are using the pen as a distraction. So I wanted to show you some things that are very distracting, but not being prepared, having someone who doesn't seem to be listening to me and understanding my panic. These are things that get in the way of effective communication. So you're here to learn some good strategies, so let's look at what we've got here. And thank you again for having me. I so enjoy being here. I have a high-tech pointer, as you can see. Love high-tech. And one thing I definitely have to do is get rid of the gum. So hang on. This is not going to work. As a kid, I remember swallowing it, and for you healthcare people, that's probably a big no-no. Okay. All right, so I want to talk about something called GORUs. These are the golden rules of business communication, or communication in general. And I thought you'd enjoy this. You know, many years ago, as a student, I remember a professor showed us this. And, oh, which one are we going to We're going to be looking at this one. Okay. You look at the world through your own perspective. Your perspective is influenced by your age, by your gender, by your experience, by where you're from, by the type of way you look at life. And in an organization, I'll use the hospital as a great example. And oh, by the way, you folks have been wonderful to us. My husband had some surgery and he was in the wound center, I think on the 3rd floor. They were wonderful to him. So he said, make sure you tell them how great they were. And I said, you bet I will. We so appreciate the care that this hospital provides. So thank you so much. So if, as an example, if you're working at Baptist Easley and you're perhaps on the admin side, maybe you're a receptionist, maybe you're doing records, you've got someone else dealing with the patients, you've got the direct caregivers, everyone is going to see things a bit differently. And in this particular example, you can see the customer wanted a plain old tire swing. But look at what other people in other departments heard. The marketing department really went crazy and didn't give them anything that they wanted. The sales department had to be funny and give them something completely different. Of course, the engineering department has a different perspective. The manufacturing people said, hey, this is what we're going to give you. And then the field service person who installed it never got the directions, apparently. And that's what the customer wanted. So there's a great example of miscommunication. People not listening, or people being in their own little area and seeing things through their own perspective is quite different. I know, being a student and being a teacher, very different perspectives. So when things are communicated to me as a teacher, I see it much differently and hear it much differently. All right, body language. You've seen these things. You've seen people who look like they want to be here. You see people who sometimes walk around like they don't want to be where they are. Body language is actually 93% of all communication is body language. That's pretty scary. So it's not necessarily the words you're choosing, but how you deliver those words that matter. So your expressions, your posture, all of that makes a difference, and gestures. Only 7% are the words that you say. 93% is body language. So you may not even be aware of it. You may not be aware of things like this when someone is talking to you and you have your arms crossed. My husband says I do this all the time. Cross my arms like this, and I usually tap my foot, which kind of means I'm not really paying attention to you. It looks like I'm listening, but I'm not hearing a word that you're saying. So let's look at some examples from my own experience. I used to be in sales. I sold to Ames department stores, which is like a Kmart. And we would have different managers in the store. And when I would go into a store, I would observe the manager. And a manager who had, and this is true, there was a gentleman who always seemed to have the weight of the world on his shoulders. And when I would walk in and meet with him, for whatever reason, his shirt always had stains. Oh, either his breakfast, his lunch, or his dinner were on his shirt. His tie was always too short. He never smiled. He kind of looked like the person you're seeing in this picture. Always had his hands in his pocket, and he walked around as though he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. Now, I would watch the people in the store, the employees, and they would be the same. They would walk around like they had the weight of the world on their shoulders. Many wanted to quit. They weren't very productive in this store. Anytime I would say good morning, they'd look at me and say, what's good about it? They were never happy people. And I attribute much of that to the leader, to the manager, who did not set the pace. Mr. DeWitt, on the other hand, another store, he had excellent posture. His clothes were clean. Yeah, just something as simple as clean clothes, pressed clothes, always smiling. He had a kind word to say to his employees. He had a can-do attitude. He looked very much like this gentleman. And I would watch the employees, and they would follow around, and they would be more alive and more alert and more productive and more positive. So you do, the way your expressions are, your posture, your body language makes a difference, especially if you're in management or you're a leader. People are going to look at that and they're going to follow. And his employees, as I said, were pretty optimistic. There are 7 universal facial expressions. Let's try them on for size, would you? Jeannie, I know you can help. Jeannie's great at this. She can do this. All right, happy faces, folks. Let's see happy faces in here. Come on, smile ear to ear. Hey, my parents paid for my orthodontal work. I'm going to be smiling. Yes, absolutely. How about surprise? Huh? Okay, surprise. How about contempt? Yeah, oh, we got a good surprise over here. Can we see your surprise again, please? Nice, I like that. All right. How about contempt? Oh, you're good. Oh, you are so good. That's nice. Very nice contempt face there. Sadness. Yeah, oh, I like that.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Randy is trying, but he looks too
Too
happy.
too happy to be sad. I love that. Boy, that should be a dilemma for us all. Fear. Fear. Oh, good. Fear. Okay. Disgust. Oh, Jeannie, your disgust is good. Your disgust is very good. All right. And, of course, anger. Yeah, whoa. Yeah, we have seen people like that. Yes, anger. Okay. So these are the 7 universal facial expressions. If 93% of all communication is body language and gestures, you better make sure your face and your facial expressions match the words that come out of your mouth. Body language, this is things you never want to do when you're communicating. Now, I have to laugh. Most people don't wear a watch anymore. But I can attest to the fact that, especially when I'm teaching, most people are looking at their cell phones. So it is always my challenge to get them looking at me and not their cell phones. Or looking at the ground. Some people are not very good with eye contact. Maybe they're kind of shy or they don't like to give eye contact. Nervous gestures drive me crazy. We had a salesman who used to, when he was communicating, he would constantly be grooming his eyebrows. Constantly grooming his eyebrows. Until the point where, you know, they were nicer shaped than mine are. He was just taking so many eyebrows out. Just a nervous habit. We also had a boss who would very often shake the keys in his pocket. So he would be talking, but he'd be shaking those keys, which was very distracting. So we got to the point whenever he was asked to speak, I want everything out of your pockets. Everything that makes noise has to be out of your pockets. It's the only way we get them to stop it. Or maybe looking at fingernails or picking at something, picking at their hair, whatever it be. These nervous gestures, sometimes people don't even know they have it. They don't know they're doing it. All right, some people sit on the edge of their chair and they look like they're ready to leave. Nobody here is looking like that. Thank you so much. You're going to stay with me. Tapping fingers or feet. I was using the pen. Or I don't know if you've ever noticed this, sometimes when people are talking one-on-one, they will put something between themselves and the receiver of the information. So it's almost as though I'm not really opening up to you. This is kind of a barrier, and you may not even know you do that. But when you're talking with someone, you want to make sure, oh, by the way, 4 feet. 4 feet. Everybody up for a minute. Everybody up for a second. I want you to get 4 feet from a partner. Choose somebody, anybody, a partner. About 4 feet away.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, that good? All right. Comfortable? All right. Now I want you to move 1 step forward, each of you, towards each other. 1 step forward. Okay. How does that feel? Okay. Now, I want you to get as close to that person as you can without being uncomfortable or being sued for harassment. So just get as close to that. Oh, look at them over there. No, over there. No, I see that. Yeah, that's your, oh, see, that works out. But everybody has 4 feet of comfort zone. It's called their comfort zone. And when it is American, you are so, in some cultures, I have noticed, especially with our international students, some of them are very comfortable getting up very close. So you always want to remember, ask someone, and you'll see they'll start to kind of back up a little, or they'll look uncomfortable, back up, give them the 4 feet. Thank you so much. You can have a seat. Thank you. Don't want to be too close. And if you're not sure, this is hard for me. I come from Greek, Italian background, and German. I love to hug. And it's really hard for me not to hug a student when they're in distress or to touch them in some way. So I always ask now. I'll say, is it okay if I give you a hug, or is it okay if I touch your arm? I want them to feel comfortable, and if they're not, then I respect that, of course. I love this one. People who are faking listening or faking interest or faking empathy and understanding. This is so difficult. You've seen people like this with the fake smile. So some people don't even know they're doing it. So here's some what I'm calling go rules or golden rules for communication. By the way, the Post-it notes and the bags are there for you if you want to jot down anything as we're going along. I always like you to have some goodies to take with you. So these are some positive, what I'm calling go rules that you can take with you. Maybe look in your bag occasionally and say, I do remember that. We did talk about that, or we discussed it. So you want to lean in when you're talking to someone. You want good eye contact, but you also, again, give them the comfort zone, but you do want to lean in and look like you're interested in talking with them. I know people, when you're talking, they're looking all over. They're looking at their phones. They're not looking at you, nor is their body language saying, you're important to me. I want to hear what you have to say. You matter. And that's what leaning in and eye contact shows, that you matter to me. What you have to say matters to me. If I'm looking elsewhere or I'm not really focusing on you, then it says to you, I don't matter to you. And that would be unfortunate. So open arms means you're taking information in, you're not like this, or you're not putting anything between you. I tend to use my hands a bit too much, but gestures are important, but not too much. You don't want to overwhelm them. You don't want to be moving around like this where people get distracted. So you want to emphasize words. I love to look at the debates, and I'm not going to talk politics, I promise. I don't have enough time, nor do I have the inclination, to be perfectly honest. But if you look at the two candidates, their communication style is quite different. And I noticed with Secretary of State Clinton, when people asked her a question, she moved into the audience or towards them and looked at them. where Mr. Trump did not do that. And that's unfortunate because it says to the people, you're not listening to me. You know, you don't care enough to come up to me, look at me. And he also does a lot of finger pointing, which is not a good strategy when you're communicating. It kind of looks like you're bullying someone when you're going like this towards them. So I'm not sure who his communication coach is. I think he ought to hire me, to be perfectly honest, but because he's in trouble. The fishy handshake, again, communication, at least in this culture, is a nice firm handshake in this culture. And in this culture, it is also customary to stand when you see someone and to extend your hand and to look them in the eye. And I love those fishy handshakes, those like a, hi, it's nice to meet you. I mean,
Mostly from a man.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, gentlemen, you might be afraid you will hurt the hand of the woman, although I've seen some women that have some firm handshakes. Again, you don't want to give them such a firm handshake that you end up hurting them, but nice and firm and look them in the eye. And of course, in this culture, that is acceptable, to look people in the eye. Again, internationally is a little different story. Most companies that are international will find out about the culture, will explore what are the communication rules in that country, and then you abide by those rules. But we're, for the most part, right now talking just here in this country. You want to show empathy. What does that mean? When someone talks, like when I first came in, where are you? You mentioned that, is it Andrea? Yeah, had a death in her family. That concerns me. So I believe I came across empathetic, because whenever someone has a loss, you folks that work in the hospital know this, it's a big deal. It's a big deal for the person, emotionally and in many other ways. So you want to show empathy and understanding. You don't want to be phony, but you definitely want to show empathy. In fact, emotional intelligence is becoming as important as any other knowledge, skill, or ability. The ability to empathize, to understand. In fact, I was watching 60 Minutes, they were talking about artificial intelligence, and they're trying to create robots that have empathy. Oh, that's scary. We're really going to be in trouble if robots can be empathetic, because a lot of humans haven't figured that out yet. So please make sure that you might want to take notes. That's why I've given you an opportunity to do so. You might want to, what I often do, my cell phone, although it's a Galaxy Samsung, and I'm hoping it's not going to blow up anytime soon, but I have a note taker, so I can take notes. Wherever I go, I can take notes, and I have found it to be wonderful. You never know, there's always tidbits out there you want to learn. And you don't want to go too fast, you want to slow down. I believe in the importance of communicating by story. Actually, my PhD was on storytelling and institutional storytelling. The way we capture memories and information through the use of story. It's an age-old method. It makes us human. It's what brings us together. It helps us to create meaning in our lives. You know, a lot of people do PowerPoints. I'm doing a PowerPoint today. However, I'm engaging with you. I'm not focused on the PowerPoint. I'm focused on you. You're the reason that I am here. I want you to be able to benefit from this wisdom. Storytelling is a method in which and in business is becoming very popular. It is a way to transfer information. It's a way to capture information. It's a way to present information that engages your audience but also helps them to learn. I'm going to just quickly tell you on the right side is, let's assume, just for the sake of discussion, that I am here to talk about servant leadership. So I'm communicating to you about servant leadership. I could talk about servant leadership, I could give you its definition, but instead I'm going to introduce you to General Dana. General Dana is my brother. He is a 3-star general. He got a promotion since the picture. I'm not sure if the picture had anything to do with it, but he got a promotion. So he works in the Pentagon. Anytime I listen to my brother speak, I hear him always talking about the people, never about him, never about his abilities. He's been in 5 wars. He's been deployed to I don't know how many times. My brother is a true leader because he understands that people are the reason he's a good leader. He knows how to coax out of them their unique qualities. He knows how to praise them. He knows how to give them their due in anything that has been accomplished by his team. I've never seen anything like it. I'm so proud of him. He's a true servant leader. Now, his office is right here. He was not there the day of the 9/11. He was not working in the Pentagon, but some of the people who work for my brother were there the day we were visiting, and my mother was with me, and my brother said, Debbie, I want you to talk to the survivors, to the man in that office when that plane came in. I want you to hear their story. And my brother just continued to praise them and talk about their bravery and what they went through and the people that they got out of that building, because he was standing right in at his office window on the phone with the Pentagon saying, are we safe? Is everything okay? Because the New York buildings had been struck. He said, oh yeah, everything's fine. And he's seeing a plane coming at him. So he said it gave me goosebumps to talk to him and as he told his story. And my brother just had the greatest admiration for these people. He's their boss, but he really, really showed us how wonderful these people are and what great people they are. That's a story. That's better than talking about servant leadership. There's a servant leader right there. And I told you why I would think that. So keep the story simple. When you're telling stories, and I encourage you to do more of this, keep it simple. Make sure it relates to the point you're making. My husband can tell a story, but you better have 2.5 hours to listen to it, because he's got to tell you every single detail. This is not what I'm talking about, especially in the workplace. You don't have that kind of time. But you do, and you have many stories. You who work in the hospital have so many stories. We at Southern Wesleyan have stories of students, of things that have happened. Those of you who work elsewhere, you all have stories, and they can help. They can help in the process. So it helps to engage your audience. It helps you to remember, and make sure that your story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. In other words, a purpose. What's the purpose of your telling the story? I believe in communicating with visuals. I think visuals are extremely important. My brother said that one of his jobs was to go across the Pacific Rim and present to military from other countries. And he said, Debbie, I got in the habit of not using wordy PowerPoints, like his sister just did. He said, use visuals whenever you can, because those visuals have a much greater impact than any amount of words may have. So as an example, if I wanted to talk to you about the workplace of the past, some of you that are perhaps more seasoned remember some of this. How you like that computer on the right? Isn't that a beauty? And on the left, you see that woman with that adding machine? Oh, wow, is that nice. That's a boat anchor today. Look at how big. Your phone probably can do about 10 of the functions that are being done in that office right now. And the scary part is I remember using all that equipment. I really do. The phone, I love this. Most people don't know what this is. A Rolodex. Who's got a Rolodex anymore? Nobody has Rolodex. You have a Rolodex? God bless you. Somebody's got one. So this is a great way, if I were to talk about the businesses of the past, this would be what I might want to discuss. How about this one, folks? Hey, this is what Baptist Easley may have for the future. You never know. Do you have a playground anywhere here? No? No, they're looking at me like, what do you mean we got a playground? That's what I like to hear, a playground. This is what you need. This is from Google. On the left, you see the Googleplex, the inside of one of their buildings. They believe in giving the employees 24/7 food. So 24/7 you can, and I'm not talking, nothing wrong with the cafeteria, but I'm not talking just cafeteria food. I'm talking any kind of food you want. Really, really good meals, 24/7 for free. She's going from the second floor to the first floor. Why not take a slide? Isn't that a lot more fun than an elevator? Come on, folks, really. That's a great. Now, on the right, I think Southern Wesleyan ought to have one of these. How many of you go to meetings? Okay. Anybody take a little snooze during the meetings occasionally? You don't have to fess up, but let me say this. Many times in meetings, people are tired, they're not concentrating, they're not listening well. Google has come up with a $30,000 solution. So if I want to go to a meeting, I meet you at the bicycle. I think it fits six people and the driver, 7. The guy with the steering wheel is just steering, but the other, you have to pump, just like a bicycle. So can you imagine going to a meeting on a bicycle? It's a conference bike. I love the concept. The only problem is I could never catch my breath long enough to say anything. It would be tough, but there's one way. So, all right, let me teach you how to listen better. We have 2 ears. We want to use those more than our mouths. How can you be a better listener? I'm going to kind of skip through this. Sometimes people pretend they're listening, but you know they're in their happy place somewhere. They're not really paying attention. Other people love to monopolize. I work with someone who, I won't mention who the person is, but it's always about that particular person. This person doesn't listen, doesn't take the time. As soon as you say something, this person will butt right in and start talking.
I'm so sorry,
you know,
Dad.
yeah, it's all right. Please don't do that anymore. Yeah. So you don't want to be a monopolizer, because what happens is people don't want to talk with you. They don't want to share with you. A lot of times people will not even listen to this person. So you've got to be listening is an acquired skill. It's not something that comes naturally to everyone. Some people are selective listeners. They'll only listen to certain things, and they kind of screen out what they don't want to hear. I'm very good at that when it comes to what my husband has to say. Defensive listening. Someone will say something like, Jeannie, I really like your outfit today. And instead of Jeannie saying thank you, she'll say, oh, this old thing? Usually with Jeannie, it's something that she has found for an unbelievable amount of money. You folks have great, what are they called, consignment shops down here. Wow, I've never seen anything like it. She spoke to a group of people not too long ago, and how much did your outfit cost? Under $8. Come on, under $8. And she was talking about money. She was talking about money, being fiscally responsible. Some people are literal listeners. They are insensitive to others' feelings. They only want to hear the facts, only the facts, or they are not empathetic. So some people join conversations with predetermined attitudes and assumptions. I don't want to learn anything. If you came here today and you thought, what's she going to tell me that I don't know? Or, you know, I'm just going to do this because I have to check a box. Instead of coming in open heart, open mind. You know, anytime anybody's speaking, even the presidential debates, open heart, open mind. There might be some tidbit in there you need to hear. So some people are very preoccupied. I get that. You know, maybe you're sick. Maybe you've got a lot on your mind. Maybe something has happened in your life. All of us have things going on. All of us, life happens. We have ups, we have downs. Sometimes it's really difficult to listen when you're tired or you're sick or you've got a lot going on in your life. I understand that. And so do others. But, you know, sometimes what I will say, especially to students, is, you know, this is what's happening in my life right now. I'm not quite as on fire today as I usually am, so please understand. And some of them, I didn't tell you this, Jeannie, some of them have come up to me and said to me, how's your husband doing? How's he feeling? Is he okay? I mean, they touch my heart because I am willing to share with them why I may be different or not as attentive as I usually am. So let people know what's going on. Sometimes you're completing other people's thoughts before they get a chance to get it out of their mouths. You're finishing up their conversation. Some of us are very selective in our listening and engage in that too much. And as I said, maybe you're angry or whatever. Please pay attention. This is the problem with effective listening. If you're not looking at body language, your rate of speech. I am speaking fairly quickly today because I only have a short period of time. An hour isn't a whole lot of time, but it's enough to get the points across. And I want to give you an activity to do so you can practice some of what we had. I believe in kinesthetic learning. One of the best ways that you can learn is by doing. So we're going to practice what we're preaching here, okay? All right. Some people are in their happy place. which means as soon as someone opens their mouth, they kind of sit down and they start going to where they have a fond memory. Maybe it's a vacation, maybe it's when you were growing up, a place that you used to go. Places which bring you happiness and bring you peace. Instead of, especially if it's something, if you're at a meeting or you're listening to people and whatever the content is, it's not something you want to hear, we tend to try to leave. Physically we're there, but mentally we might be somewhere else. We've talked about empathy and how important that is. And realize your own shortcomings. As an example, and I don't mean to use my poor husband all the time, but he communicates much differently than I. He's very literal. Anytime I say something to him, I have to be careful that I am clear, that I am concise, and that I explain it in the detail he needs. Now, on the other hand, as a woman, and I'm not sure this is true for all women, but I like a little fluff in the conversation. There's nothing wrong with the little feelings in there, and give me a little more of what I like to hear. So when we are communicating, especially if it's regarding my car, something wrong with my car, I have to be very clear and concise with him. Now, if it's feeling stuff, that's different. But anything that he's an expert on, he wants me to communicate on his terms. So find out your coworker, your boss, how do they like to communicate? What's their preferred? Jeannie is my boss, and I know that she is a very social communicator. She likes to see you when she communicates. She likes to come in and say, anytime when you come in the morning, she will come out. She's got a big smile. How are you? She's very engaging. And I believe that, I don't know if that's your preferred style, but that certainly is the way. She's a social, I believe you're a very social creature, and you love, so am I. So we like to converse face to face. Over the phone or through email, I don't get the same communication as we do when we are together. So people have a preferred style. My style is not through email. For some it is. For young people today, they just love those text messages, or they love those cell phones, or whatever way they have been accustomed to. They don't know what they're missing, because one-on-one communication can just be so exciting and so invigorating. But for many, it's just not their. They're missing the boat as far as I'm concerned. Okay, have an open mind. When if you're a good listener, you keep your mind open. You're not sitting there thinking, this is garbage. I don't believe any of this. This was so hard to do during the presidential debates, because I'm sitting there going, oh, no, when they were speaking. And that really prevented me from hearing what they had to say. So to be open-minded is very hard, especially if you have strong feelings about a topic. You don't seek to understand. Many of us don't seek to understand. We seek to make our point. This is how I feel, and I know I'm right. Or, well, this may be how I feel. I'll listen and see if I can understand your perspective. And we can agree to disagree in some cases. It's not always going to be in agreement. There are many times you're going to talk with people and perhaps not agree. This is difficult in a work situation, especially with a boss and the person for whom they lead. They might be communicating and not agreeing on a particular topic. And it just may be that they'll have to agree to disagree. But as long as you keep your heart and your mind open, it's not just about your ears. Listening takes a lot more than just this. It takes empathy, it takes understanding, it takes putting your own agenda aside. And that is difficult, because everybody has an agenda. I said to my students, on your forehead, people have W-H-I-M. What's in it for, what's in it for me? W-I-F-M. W-I-F-M. Look at your partner. Look at the table. See, it's right on their forehead. Yeah, right on. Can you see it? Right there. Whiff them right on their foreheads. I can see everybody's forehead. You got bangs, I can't see it, but it's there. It's there. What's in it for me? Now, that sounds selfish to some degree, but it really isn't. People will listen and they will communicate, but they have an agenda. I have an agenda today. I know that's hard to believe, but I have an agenda today. My agenda is I want to share with you what I know to be true and right and good, okay, in regard to communication. So I do have an agenda. And I enjoy, truly enjoy, because God has gifted me with the ability to speak to people and encourage and to coax out of you your very best. So I do have an agenda. Okay, people who are good listeners validate others' feelings, and they help the person to know they're making sense. Sometimes I like when people say, do you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm with you. I got it. I may not agree, but I understand where you're coming from. So words have absolutely such an effect. The right word at the right time is like precious gold set in silver. And I think that's so true. Okay, let's see what you have. I know we've kind of flown through a lot of great stuff, but I think you've got the basics. I know you do. I don't think you do. I know you do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to pair up, if you would. One of you is going to be listening in the beginning, and one of you is going to be telling a story. Okay, you ready? Mm-hmm. A story. Now, the listeners, at least for the first part of it, we'll give them 2 minutes the first time. 2 minutes each. The first time, the person that's telling the story is going to, this is what your story is going to be about. You're going to keep it simple, a beginning, a middle, and an end, and there's going to be a point to the story. I want you to tell us, or your partner, about your first work experience. Something, maybe during the interview process, something that happened in your first work experience that you would like to share with them. It could be something funny, it could be something memorable. As an example, in my first work experience, I was telling Jeannie I went in and I had a suit on, and I was so nervous. I was shaking all over. My hair was shaking. I was so scared. And I sat down, and this woman was beautiful, this beautiful lady. And I remember I kept pulling my skirt down because it kept riding up, and I kept pulling it down because I didn't want to expose too much of myself. And I was trying to be very proper, and I spent all my time pulling my skirt down, which really detracted from the interview process. Luckily, she heard me type and said, "You're okay, I'm gonna hire you." But I still know her, we're friends. I was very young at the time. She said, "Debbie, I still remember you sitting there with your hair shaking and you pulling your skirt down." But she said, and we have grown to be very, very good friends, and we had a great working relationship. So, get with your partner. One of you will be telling your story, and one of you will be listening, utilizing hopefully what you have learned here about listening skills, okay? So one of you is listening, one of you is telling the story. We'll give you 2 minutes. Our timekeeper, Dr. Trudell, who's my boss, she's going to ring the bell when it's time to switch, okay?
I need my phone.
Okay, you need your phone, okay. And you got